Hello there, welcome to Showcase. The Istanbul Film Festival, organized by the Istanbul Foundation of Culture and Arts, is one of the main movie events in Turkey. Each year, it allows cultural dialogue between local cinephiles and filmmakers from around the globe. And now it returns for the 42nd time. This year's edition will screen 134 feature-length films as well as 29 shorts. The international and national competition categories will see acclaimed films battle it out for the major awards. And alongside the workshops that focus on film and TV production, William Friedkin gets a packed retrospective that includes his classics, The Exorcist and Sorcerer. I'm now joined by the Istanbul Film Festival director, Kerem Ayan. Kerem, for us, spring means a lot of films. We have seen many great films in the past years during the event. Do you ever feel the pressure each year to be better than the last? And what are the highlights of this edition?
We are screening the film that are already in the festival circuit. So we hope every year that next year there will be better films, let's say. But we are happy from our programming, of course, from this year. And in the festival this year, we have, like every year, let's say, like the best films of the big festivals, mainly Berlin Film Festival, Berlinale. We are showing all the awarded films of the Berlinale. And also some films from Venice and some films from Cannes, of course. We have our premieres, we have the big competitions, the national competition and the international competition. We have the first film competition that we started last year's first international first film competition, let's say. And we do also a retrospective of William Friedkin. We are showing 9 films, 9 cult films, let's say.
And especially from Berlinale, we have a list of awarded international films, as you mentioned. So would you like to tell us about compelling movies that will be screened at the festival? I'm simply wondering about your favorites.
Okay, so so we are showing Christian Petzold's last movie, A Fire, from the Berlinale. It won one of the big awards there. This is for me, it was the best filming competition, by the way. So we are showing that one. We are showing the film that won Golden Bear Award, On the Adamant, a French documentary, also from the Berlinale. And I can talk about the films in our competition because these are our favorite movies, let's say, so we put them in competition. I can say Animalia. Animalia is from Sundance, and it's a science fiction film, a fantastic film from Morocco. And then there's this French documentary called Atlantic Bar, which was in a side section in Cannes that we discovered. And then we have lots of good documentaries this year. We have another one called And the King Said, What a Fantastic Machine. It's a Danish documentary that tells the relation between the man and the camera. Of course, the social media also in these times, let's say. And our opening film is Crapper. It's the film who won Sundance Film Festival. It's a really beautiful film about a father-daughter relationship.
What about Turkish films? There are many good ones. I know it's hard to pick, but what can you tell us about them?
I prefer not to recommend Turkish movies because they are all in competition. So, but we have 11 Turkish movies in competition, in the fiction competition, and 5 of them are the world premiere. It will be shown for the first time here in Istanbul. So I hope people will enjoy them.
You mentioned the lack of female filmmakers in the previous year's editions. How is this year, actually? And in the No More Flowers section, what kind of stories are women telling?
We have, of course, not enough female filmmakers again, especially I'm talking about the Turkish film competition. I think it's, we are showing 11 films. I think we have 2 or 3 female filmmakers. I'm not sure exactly, but it's not enough, of course. I hope it will improve, but in general, let's say, in the festival program, we have much more female filmmakers which is wonderful. In the No More Flowers section, we have films with the female protagonist, strong female protagonist, let's say. And this year we have lots of different subjects. We have a film about racism. It's a story of a little girl, Nene Superstar. It's a story of a black little girl who tries to go to the ballet school in Paris. Or Alice Darling, who talks about toxic relationship. And we have also Blanquita, who talk about sexual abuse. So we have lots of different subjects on these matters.
Alongside new films, there are classics such as William Friedkin's movies, as you mentioned earlier. Can you tell us a bit more about this and whether he is joining the event or not?
Yeah. We are showing 9 films. He has, of course, the most famous one is Exorcist, of course. It's the 50th anniversary of Exorcist. We are showing that one, but he has lots of cult movies like French Connection or Cruising, and we will show also Sorcerer, which is not easy to see, let's say. We invited him, but he's not able to come. Not because of his old age, but he's editing his last movie, so he's working, so he can't come.
Well, he won't make it, but there's someone else who I'm a big fan of coming to our town. I'm talking about Ayan. Can you tell us why she is this year's guest of honor?
Yeah, this year, instead of a movie star, we have a literature star, let's say. She won the Nobel Award last year, Aniano. She did a documentary with her son. So we are showing this documentary, Super 8 Years. She's talking about her childhood, her youth, as usual. She will come to present the film, and of course she will sign also her books. We will do, I think, a press conference also. So we are very, very happy to host her in Istanbul.
Okay, Kerem, thanks so much once again for joining us here on Showcase today. Dungeons & Dragons is one of the most beloved, enduring games in fantasy fandom. It's a quality that lends it a bankable movie franchise potential, and with the recent Hollywood reboot of D&D, that goal may be finally realized.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies.
Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, is the journey of a group of adventurers who are after a lost relic.
Truth be told, we helped the wrong person steal the wrong thing.
Reviews say this storyline delivers the expected tropes of the fantasy genre: medieval action, archetype characters, and special effects. And it's received as a refreshing reboot adaptation of the famous tabletop game.
She missed.
No, that's not good.
The previous trilogy of films it inspired started out as a theatrical debut, followed by a TV sequel, before reaching a conclusion in direct-to-DVD form.
I'll go last.
With an opening box office that has exceeded $70 million, the new outing will likely avoid such fate. Part of that success belongs to the vision of the filmmakers, who are fans of the source material.
But whatever happens.
I feel satisfied that these boys respect, unlike a lot of producers and directors that can pick a thing because it's a trend or because it's a brand that they can make money off of, and they work backwards from there. You have guys who actually profoundly respect and love the tradition of Dungeons and Dragons and really care about storytelling.
Protect it with your very life. I will. Hold this.
Dungeons & Dragons also scored points by distinguishing itself from somber and serious fantasy movies with its comedy.
The bridge is protected by an ancient trap. We must not trigger the mechanism. I may have triggered the mechanism. So, sorry.
I think humor is paramount, no pun intended, to a film like this because it allows to kind of break the tension. And it also feels very natural to our characters to find the funny in the most fraught moments. We're never taking the piss out of it, we're never spoofing the genre, but we are acknowledging that our characters are fleshed out people that have a wide variety of emotions that isn't just stoic and boring.
On your knees.
Okay, chop it off.
Chop it off. Let's do it.
Reviews lament Dungeons and Dragons is a vanishing rare entity, in that it's riotous entertainment for the whole family, and that appeal to the family unit might be the key to draw the numbers needed for a successful movie franchise.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
you make plans that fail.
No,
He also plays the lute.
not relevant.
Based on a story by British mystery writer Edgar Wallace and Hollywood producer Marion C. Cooper, King Kong eventually became one of the most recognizable names in pop culture. And as the classic film turns 90, Alican explains in our movie almanac how it's had an enduring impact on cinema as we know it.
Oh, you put on the Beauty and Beast costume, eh?
Mm-hmm. It's the prettiest.
All right. Just stand right over there. I hold it a minute and then turn...
In King Kong, a group of filmmakers travel to a fantastical island to shoot a picture. There they come across its ruler, a giant gorilla, and decide to take him with them to civilization. The film was made in 1933, during Hollywood's golden age, and holds a special place in cinema history for its special effects. The creatures in it come to life with the earliest stop-motion techniques. Filmmaker John Landis says these techniques were groundbreaking. He explains that animation is what gives Kong a personality, and that's why audiences buy him as the star of the picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, look at Kong, the eighth wonder of the world.
The man responsible for the stop motion is Willis O'Brien. Critic Leonard Maltin hails the special effects pioneer as the unsung grandfather of Kong. In the movie, he staged realistic fights between the creatures, just like a boxing match. That style of fighting still receives acclaim from contemporary Hollywood. And the way O'Brien moved the dinosaurs in King Kong set the standard for later films.
Get them together, boys. They're going to be married tomorrow. Put your arm around her, Driscoll.
According to Landis, the sound design is also original. What he calls a wall-to-wall soundtrack features tiger and lion roars, played backwards to give voice to the beasts living on the island. It's these techniques, used 90 years ago, that later became blueprints for the filmmakers who produce the blockbusters of today. And that shows just how ahead of its time King Kong and its visionaries actually were.
British artist John Craxton once said, "Life is more important than art." He was a free spirit with no obsession for fame or money. All he wanted to do was to live under the sunshine and paint pleasure. So in 1946, he visited Greece and it was love at first sight. 3 years later, he saw Istanbul and fell for its culture and colors. And just recently, I was joined at Istanbul's Meşer by writer Ian Collins, who told me more about the late artist's decade-long obsession with the Mediterranean. So art writer, biographer of John Craxton, and curator of this very exhibit, Ian Collins, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the exhibition, of course, but I like to start by discussing your favorite artists. What really jumped out at you when you met Craxton or saw his work?
I knew his work already, but I met him 10 years before he died, and we became great friends. And what I loved about him is what I loved about the pictures. He was a complete free spirit. He was very funny, very anarchic, very clever, and he just completely went his own way. He did his own thing for good or sometimes for him for bad, because he got into a lot of trouble, but he always had a life of great adventure and freedom, and I really loved that.
And some critics called him a neo-romantic artist, but he rather called himself a kind of Arcadian.
That's it.
What do you make of Craxton's work exactly? How would you describe his style?
Well, he hated labels, and he was just doing his own thing, and he refused any kind of education, any kind of tuition, and he was amazingly fortunate because his parents encouraged him to do what he wanted, and all he wanted to do was draw and paint in the way he wanted to do it. He didn't pass any exam, even in art. The only qualification he ever passed in his whole life was to drive a motorbike. That's how he got around the Aegean, mostly. And he just went his own way. And so he although he was linked to various movements, the Arcadian spirit meant freedom, it meant a life in the sun, in the Mediterranean. That's where he wanted to be always. And he got here when he was 23.
Speaking of which, so it won't be wrong to say he was kind of quite obsessed with Greece, right? So what was the trigger behind that, actually? And what did he find when he went there finally?
He learned by looking, and so he went to museums, and he loved ancient art, and he loved El Greco, and he also had this romantic idea of the Mediterranean. He wanted to be in the south, in the sun. He was actually ill. He had tuberculosis. He didn't know it. He just knew that he was often exhausted, but it was actually tuberculosis. So he needed this hot, dry climate much more than he really knew. And when he finally got here, just after the war, when he was 23, he never looked back. He never painted a picture that wasn't based on the Aegean. And he opened out. He'd been this very private, introspective person who just opened out to the world and became a portraitist of other people. He loved people.
But he also had a fascination with Istanbul, didn't he? Like,
He did.
He visited Turkey many times. And do we see any artworks reflecting his fascination?
We do indeed. He came first of all in 1949. He adored Istanbul, all the different layers of history in Istanbul. He particularly loved the Byzantine mosaics in Hagia Sophia, and they really influenced his art. In the picture behind you, actually, which the cameras probably can't show, he was working away with this flattened, brilliantly coloured patterning that he put into his art. And what he loved was pictures that appeared to be contemporary, but which actually went back down the layers of history. And Byzantine art, he just adored.
And what about the carpet over there?
The carpet, he loved Turkish carpets, he loved weaving, and he was thrown out of Greece when his jokes ran away with him because he laughed at a policeman, which you didn't do when it was a military regime, and he was kicked out. And he designed this amazing tapestry in Scotland, which has never been outside Scotland before this exhibition. And he put in everything he thought about the Aegean and everything he loved. And it's the world he was exiled from and he had to get back to.
Do you think during his lifetime he got the attention he deserved, or like was he overlooked?
He was overlooked, but he conspired in that because he just liked living. He said that life is more important than art, and he had this life of pleasure, but that's what he painted. So I think we can only see his story at the end, really, and this whole picture, which is just a journey into joy. And that's what I think he brings to the world now. And it's a spring-like exhibition, and it would just cheer people up. One of the leading critics said that he was a painter who struggled hard against a handicap of happiness. His pictures weren't serious enough because they were too joyful. Well, I think a handicap of happiness is a very good handicap myself. In fact, I think we should all have it. And so he was just absorbed in colour. He was absorbed in light, in heat, all the things that he always wanted in the Aegean and that he found here, the Arcadia he'd always longed for.
But speaking of happiness, like let's take David Hockney, for instance. He's also like spreading joy through art. And I don't know if it's right to compare these two, but what's your comment on that?
Well, they were friends. I think there's quite a similarity, actually, because they're more and more absorbed in colour. And John was also a designer, a graphic designer. He was a book designer. He designed a wonderful ballet for Margot Fonteyn, and we have a film of it in the exhibition. Hockney can turn his hand to anything, and that's what John did. He thought that art and life were enmeshed, really. He just wanted the life. He wanted the taverna life. He wanted to just be painting the pictures. He didn't want to finish the pictures. He didn't want to sell them. He just wanted to be doing it. And so he would take his sketchbook into the tavernas and the cafes, sketch away. Then he'd go home and work on these pictures for years and years sometimes, 15 years in one case. He wasn't about selling, he was about being.
So what new ways did he discover for the art world in the 20th century, you think?
I think it's a very important lesson. First of all, that life comes first. And secondly, that you need to absorb all these influences to make your own voice. Be original, be individual, don't be trained, don't be constrained. Be yourself, be free. That's the message of John Craxton for artists and for everybody, which I think is the key to life, really.
I think that's an amazing message. And so now let's talk about this exhibition, titled John Craxton Drawn to Light. A comprehensive display, as far as I can see, and with nearly like 200 pieces, including artworks, as well as like his personal belongings. And can you give us more details about the show, please?
Well, the first exhibition for John in Turkey also happens to be the biggest exhibition of John anywhere, because we are so fortunate in having 40 pictures from the collection of Ömer Koç, who is the patron of the Meşe Gallery. And so it's the biggest show there's ever been. And some of these works have never been seen before. And so it's very, very exciting. And it's a great chance for the people of Istanbul, the people of Turkey, to just absorb this wonderful life, which is paying tribute to Turkey, is paying tribute to the Aegean. It's the life you have, it's the place you know, but through new eyes, perhaps.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us here on Showcase today, Ian Collins.
Thank you so much.
A conversation occurring through painting instead of words. That's how artist Keith Haring described his friends Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat's mutual works. And now a new exhibition explores how the merging of two talents created a third distinctive mind.
Basquiat Warhol Painting for Hands is on show at the Louis Vuitton Foundation. It features 160 paintings the two artists made together from 1984 to 85, and it's all thanks to an arrangement initiated by the duo's dealer, Bruno Bischofberger.
The great thing is that it's not 1 + 1 = 2. No, it's 1 + 1 = 3. In other words, it's neither Warhol nor Basquiat. It's a third artist who emerges from this complicity, which was based on mutual fascination. They were fascinated not only by each other's personalities, but also by each other's talents.
And their story starts with this double portrait Basquiat made in 1982 when they first met.
Basquiat asked Bischofberger to play the role of Warhol, to take the picture of the two. And so he gave him the Polaroid, and Basquiat left immediately with the photo. Came back 2 hours later with this painting, which is at the beginning of the exhibition, and which is brilliant. And that's when Warhol said, "He's a bit faster, he's more brilliant than I am."
Basquiat, who was a talented emerging artist at the time, admired Warhol as the pioneer of pop art, while Warhol's interest in painting flourished again thanks to Basquiat.
They became electrified. So Warhol got younger, the other one took on a dimension. He dared monumental formats that he hadn't done before. And there's a power that comes out of these works that is unique. There is no equivalent.
Today, the late artist's works fetch millions of dollars at auctions. They're also among the most forged artists. As for their iconic relationship, it seems the art world's fascination with it will be everlasting.
That's it for this episode of Showcase. I'm Esra Dürüst. From me and the whole team here in Istanbul, thanks for watching. Bye for now.